Well, hello and welcome to Stockton Junction. So this is the Fiddle Yard upgrade, and as I said previously, I've got this legacy track. I've actually got two boxes of it. I've got another one over there, so I've got like 50 odd meters of track to put in. Might need some more. I might not. I'm not sure. Probably end up getting more. But what we've got at the moment, I'll show you underneath the Fiddle Yard in a minute. But I'll just give you a really rough drawings. I mean, really rough. Take me a couple of minutes to draw these out. This isn't to any scale or exact plan, but for an example, this is, say, the upline at the back. And what we've got is the full length of the Fiddle Yard, which is the whole length of the shed, which is about 25 foot long. So we've got it divided. So you'd have the opposite again. The downline will be this side here, with tracks this side, and there's not to scale with the amount of tracks or anything like that. So you'd have a full length train which could hold seven odd coaches coming in and stopping here. This is the halfway point, a different section, and there'd be another train, so you could fit a train there, 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 so on, for all. I think there's seven tracks, so 14 trains in total, and the same on the other side for the downline. This would be the upline, so on. Actually, it'd be the other way around. That's the downline, that's the upline, but it doesn't matter. But the problem I've got, even though I'm planning on using automated software, is, so obviously the train comes in and stops here because there's a train sat here, and this one then goes out. But for it to have somewhere to go, obviously I'd have one line that's a straight through. I need to then either move this train up, so automatically have, once this one's disappeared, I'd have to have it so that this train automatically moves up to here. Yeah, I could do that, but it's a lot of faff. It's a lot of messing around. It's a lot of programming. So whichever train moves out of the front yard part of the yard, going off in the traveller direction, and that one that way, then I've still got to move the next train up in order for that train to then come back in to a slot. And obviously another train's then gone off automatically and so on, because they'll all take turns in going off at different times, etc. But it's a bit of a faff. And what if I've got a train here, but I actually really want to run this one behind? It's, I got to thinking, well, it's not really ideal. It's not what I want. I don't want that sort of faff. So what I've got planned is something more. If you imagine this is the middle of the Fiddle Yard, so you'd have the down line here, this one, and this would be the up line. So they'd come in on, obviously it's going to go up here, and there's a corner up this end, so they're going to have the tracks are going to have to go round the bend a little bit like that, and then round on this straight I'll have some more points here. But then what it'd be is the train comes in, I would have obviously this one as a straight through line, or the back one maybe as the straight through, but then that's a really nice long one as well, which is quite good. So if I do want a train to go straight through, it can go do that. But then I've got, obviously the trains will all come in and they'll just stop at the ends like so, and like that. And I think, and obviously the same on the other side, and I can have so I worked out at least, I mean, I've got very big gaps, as we'll have a look at in a minute. Under my layout, I've got quite big gaps between the tracks, and I've got 14 tracks down there. So it means obviously I've got to have one track going for the up line, and then again one track for the down line this side. So it means I can still have 13 trains in sidings. So that's 26 trains. That's pretty good. I'm quite happy with that, really. But looking at the width of the tracks down there, I think I could actually squeeze another track in quite easily, and so I can have a passing one if I want the train to go straight on round again. But to be honest, it's going to be on an automated system. There's always going to be a train's gone off within a minute. Before it's even got onto the top of the layout, out the helix, another train will be going off as well. So there's always going to be 2 or 3 sidings empty. By the time a train's up on the layout, there's going to be another one coming up the helix or behind it, and another one already and then another one leaving here. So I'm always going to have some empty sidings, plus in the station area I've got 4 tracks, so I can always have a train sat in the station at any point. So I could even run a lot more trains than what the sidings will hold. And there's always there's going to be a freight line siding as well, so up near the station area there's going to be a separate freight line, and there'll be where a freight train can just sit with an extra siding as well. So I mean, my options for trains with the permanent way depot as well, can have trains that sit in there rather than down in these sidings. So there's always going to be an empty siding that something can run through, and there's always going to be sidings on the layout where things can be sat at as well. So I've got an awful lot of sidings and space for trains to run through with, but this is going to make it a lot easier for a train if it needs to come in. It hasn't got to sit and wait for it's not got to wait for another train to move out of the way up onto the from here to here or anything. No messing around. So I think it's going to be a better option. It means I've got to do a little bit more board building underneath, but I've got plenty of room, and I'll show you all that in a second. Right, so originally the tracks had come down from the helix over there. They went into 4 tracks here, which was 2 middle through tracks and 2 sidings, which ended here. Now, as you can see, if I get a piece of track, the distance underneath the layout from that backboard to here is pretty long. It's nearly 2/3 of a length of a flexi track. So I've got a good 1.5 foot there of width still that could be used. So, and obviously the tracks would come round there, as you can see. And here obviously I've started taking some up, but obviously you can see the setup. They came in there and split to make the 7 tracks that would go down. And if we look down, it's a very, very long way down, as you can see. It goes down, that's, you know, we're 20 foot from the other end here. The train tracks are straight all the way down, and it's got exactly the same as this, and the bit at the end round there on the other side of the layout, the other end of the layout, and it's got the same amount of space. So rather than having a train sitting in here and then having to wait for the train in front up the other end to move and then move up to create a space for the next train to come into, we're going to do it in the way that I've put it. So in the middle there, there'll be a full set of tracks, and but as you can see, there's an awful lot of space. But also look at the gaps between the tracks. I mean, look, they are very, very, very wide. It's a lot bigger than the 4 foot. I've got a lot of space, so I could definitely fit another track or even 2 in by squeezing these up, depending on what points I use. I've got mediums that I've used on the bottom of the layout here, but I don't know if using mediums is going to be the best way. Depends on how many points I can get in a diagonal. I mean, the diagonal is going to have to start right over back there and come across to sort of here, but it's still going to give me 7 or 8 car lengths even on the shortest track, and some of the longer tracks will be a bit bigger, so it's not too bad. And the tracks aren't wobbly down there, even though they look it. That's where I've started loosening the tracks up from that end. So, but yeah, so I've got to take all this track up, which is pretty easy. Like this one's stuck down, as you can see. All I've got to do is wiggle them, stuck them down to this. There you go, and that one's nearly up already. That's that easy to lift them. So won't take me long to get all the track work up. I literally just glued them down with spray glue, and that's the good thing about them. They do stay where they are, but they come up really, really easy. Look, so track laying and
is quick. But I mean, these tracks don't move. Look, I'm wiggling that won't move until I really get some pressure on it. And then, but then once you get some pressure on it, they come out easy. So it's not going to take me long to get all this track work up. But what I do need to also do is fit all the point motors, because there's nothing worse than trying to get under here at the moment and change a point that's right at the back or something like that. And it's sort of getting me down a little bit that I have to keep messing around with that sort of stuff. And I want to use storage underneath the layout as well for storing all my train bits and pieces, so, and you know, bits of wood and all that sort of stuff. So I need to get all the point work done so that I can then not have to need to get under there and move things, etc. So that's where we're at the moment with the rebuild of the Fiddle yard. I think you can see why I'm going to redo it. And the other thing I'm going to do is that on the front of the layout here, I'm going to put another little board for my test track. So I'll have another little board just sat along the front with two test tracks actually, one for DC and one for DCC, because I have a spare DC unit and I would like to have like a rolling road set up on there, so when you get a new train or something like that and it's not chipped yet, you can still run it in and test it before you've put your chip in. They actually advise you to run them in before you fit the chips anyway, so I think that would be a good idea. But yeah, I'm going to get on with removing all this track. It's a boring and tedious job, but it'll be worth it once I've finished.
Hello and welcome back to Stockton Junction. So as I have mentioned, I've been working on the Fiddle yard. I've stripped it out completely and I've started rebuilding. So where you can see the wood there, so I've got a torch because it's a little bit darker even with the camera light there. That originally continued across there up to this board here. So this board here went straight the way along, so obviously I only had room for a couple of tracks around that corner, but that I have widened, obviously a bit wider than I needed, but it was easier to put the supports onto the legs to support it both sides. And what we now have is the inside line here is for the other end of the Fiddle yard that will continue round, and so I now have 13 sidings. That's just a couple of bits of Hornby radius 4 to make sure that all of my curves are higher than radius 4, so all my curves are at least sort of like what you might call 5 or 6, so nothing tighter than radius 4. As you can see, so the back track one there goes round and splits into 5 at the back there, and I've got quite a few tracks. I'll just move over. Excuse the glass jar, that was weighting down the track while it was drying, and as you can see it continues all the way down like so, and that's 8 car HST there. Well, it's one HST loco, because obviously I don't want the motored ones on there at the moment, just for testing the lengths of the tracks, and that will fit in those back tracks nicely. But these other tracks are much longer as well, so if I have longer trains they will fit. Yeah, so obviously now this last track that's coming here needs to continue round, and then I'm going to pretty much do the exact opposite. So I have a row of points going down that side there and going and splitting off, and I'll have exactly the same the other end. But it's taken quite a long time to fit all this. It's taken nearly 3 boxes of track, so I've got 1 and a bit boxes left, so I'm gonna have to buy another couple of boxes. So yeah, that's not cheap. And obviously I fitted all the points, but I haven't fitted any point motors as of yet. But I'm in the process of wiring. None of it's wired yet properly, and I need to label everything up, because I'll be at a much later date I will be automating it all, so everything has
it's correct wiring in the right places labelled, and all the like feedback wires, etc., and things like that will be done. So, and brakes, so multiple feedbacks in certain areas. So lots to do still, but it's getting there. But as you can see, it's a lot of work, and it's a very long fiddle yard, as you can see. So I mean, that's 8 cars down there. That's not only just getting to the point work and going around the bend, but when I bring it up, it'll fit in those back ones nicely, as I said. So I've got a couple of bits to say about the track I'm using. So I'm using the Legacy track. I'm just going to put that torch down now. I do like it, and if it does what it says, which is require less cleaning, it's absolutely ideal for my fiddle yard. I ripped out all the Pico track. I have got a lot of it, so I'm probably going to sell that second hand, because it's, apart from where I've soldered all the fish plates, which I'll cut off, it's really no problem. There's nothing wrong with it. It's only been laid down and sat there for a while, but hardly been used, so it's still got a lot of use for people. But yeah, so what I was saying, so there's obviously, I'm gluing my track down, weighting it. If you are one of these people that likes to get some track out and lay a few bits out and just run some trains and then pack it all up afterwards, I wouldn't say that this is the best track to use, only because of this. It doesn't sit flat. So if I hold that flat, look, both ends are twisted, and that is a dead flat surface. So every piece of track is like this that's in the box, in every box I've opened. Now it's just the way that the manufacturing process is, and if you're screwing down your track, then it's not a problem, because it will flatten out. Or if you're gluing it down, again, not an issue. So for me, not an issue, but just to be aware of the fact that the Legacy track does do this. One thing I will be doing, obviously, because of the track cleaning claims, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay all the track. I'm going to obviously not clean it, and I'm going to keep it running. The only thing I will do is go over the points with a less abrasive track roller every now and then, to make sure they don't have problems. I'm going to leave the track for as long as possible until I start to get some running issues, so we can see how long it works for. So that'll be a good investigation for you guys, because people make these claims. We want to see how good it really is. But even if it's 3 months, 4 months, something like that, it's going to be a lot better. I found that the Pico track needs doing very regularly, even almost fortnightly. If I leave it for 2 or 3 weeks, it needs cleaning before I can run anything. So we will see about that. Now, I have had a couple of, I say gripes, it's not so I've got their fish plates that come with them, and I've had some sort of issues. I've obviously got a load of Pico ones as well, but the problem I've had, now I'm just going to pause the video while I put this on a second, because I need a spare hand. Right, so I've slid the fish plate in. Now this is the problem for me. It's not a big problem, but look how loose that is. They're very, very loose on a fresh piece of track. So I don't think the connectivity's very good. They do wobble slightly as side to side. I don't know if you can see that, but they wobble quite a bit, which means they're not very tight. Now, if you're, sorry, got interrupted there. Yeah, so obviously if you're joining 2 pieces of track flush to face to face, so, and then just let me get another piece out. I'm not doing very well here. Right, so if you're joining 2 pieces, I wasn't ready for this bit, like that, without any cuts,
they're not ideal. Let's see, I've just touched it and it just pushed it straight away. They do, I have noticed, not even always line up. There's just too much gap. Not gap, but I don't mean the gap that in there, I mean the gap sideways motion. I've actually noticed that if look, just twisting the track and it's out of line. That's how much movement there is in these. Look. So not ideal. So if you lay that track down, you might find that these two rails aren't actually perfectly lined up, which could cause derailments. So what I have been doing, so where I've got a join like this, I'm using the Pico fish plates, or I'm soldering them. So I'll make sure it's dead flat like that, run a beader solder along there, job's a good one, doesn't have any issues then. But where these do come into their own is where you're cutting a piece of track. So I'm not going to do it now, but obviously when you cut a piece of track, you get a little bit of burr, a little bit of widen, and I'm sure many of you have had to cut a piece of flexi track before, and you try putting one of these Pico ones on, and it's an absolute nightmare. They just don't fit, and you end up having to file away for ages trying to get it to go on properly. Because obviously where you cut it, it just slightly widens the edge flange there of the bottom of the track where it's meant to slide onto. So where these are slightly wider, they do go on to a cut piece really well. So that is a bonus in one respect. So I'm sort of using a combination of the two. But as you can see, some of them I have been using and I've soldered like so. Obviously in a fiddle yard it doesn't matter too much. But these are nice dead flush. I've made sure they're dead flush before soldering them, and so I won't have any derailment issues. I just need to now go round and put obviously all the spare sleepers underneath for support, otherwise you get a bit of movement that way, which we don't want, although it's not a lot, so it's pretty good. So yeah, there's obviously just things to be aware of. They're not complaints, not gripes at all. Just one quick thing, it's not a complaint either. I was a bit frustrated, shall I say, that the fact that there's such a gap on every piece of track like that, which is causing, obviously, you join two pieces without cuts and you've got that great big gap and no spare sleepers. So if you do have this problem, give DCC Concepts a shout. And what they'll do is they'll send you out a bit of webbing like so you've got some spare sleepers. They're really good with that. Really appreciated it, thank you very much. And I'm really hoping that this track comes into its own with the the cleaning claims. So it's going to make a major difference to a fiddle yard of this sort of size. If you imagine, I've got 13 sidings, another 13 going on that side there, 26 sidings, and you need to remove your trains to clean the tracks all the time, once a month or once a fortnight. It's a lot of work, and I don't really want to be using track rubbers. Obviously I've got the CMX cleaner, which can run round, but that means I've got to run it, move a train, run the cleaner. If there's dirty track, obviously you run the train, it stops, and you can't run the cleaner along. So it's going to be a bit of a pain. But yeah, so with so many tracks, if this is going to do what it says on the tin, which I'm hoping it will, yeah, so great. Obviously they do say with this track that to use special solder. If you're using a standard soldering iron, sort of like standalone non-temperature controlled soldering iron, you definitely would need the low point melting solder to make sure it solders to these, because they have got some sort of difference to the Pico. They don't solder as easily. I'm still using my trusty old soldering iron that I bought well over a year ago, working perfectly great. Only thing I don't like now is the side holder for the solder, because the little clip that sits in there to hold the roll keeps falling off. So I'm going to actually unbolt that and chuck it away. So I prefer, to be honest, when I'm working, because I'm working out under the track and things like that, I prefer to hold my roll of solder anyway. So, but yeah, so if you've got temperature control, stick it up to 400 up high. It will solder these no problem, dropper wires no problem, etc. But obviously, if you're, like I said, if you're using just one of the soldering irons that comes with an iron like that with a plug on the other end of the wire, not temperature controlled, you're going to need the solder that they offer to do that job. So yeah, I'm really happy with it so far. It's gone really well. I've got to take that double radius 4 off there. It's not stuck down or anything, it's just there for me testing the tracks. And yeah, so I'm really happy with it. I've just got a lot of wiring to do now and a bit of testing to do, obviously, before I continue up the other lot for that end there, because I've got, once I can get this wired in, I can start running some trains again, even only if it's only on one track, but at least I can run trains. And then I can also get some stuff in there and make some room on the top of the layout, because I need to get all of this done so that I can start using all of this underside area for storage, so that I can actually have some room to move in my layout room, because I have not got any at the moment, what with bits of wood and other stuff laying around. So yeah, anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. I will update you in due course on the progress of the cleaning side of it. Obviously now it's laid. I've actually been working on this for nearly a month, because I obviously just do a few bits at a time, leave it to dry, walk away, come back a couple of days later, do another couple of bits. So most of it's been laid down for the best part of a month already, but I'm going to start the timing from now, because obviously the new tracks, I've literally just put in about 4 tracks today, the nearest 4. So yeah, I'll let you know. So we'll say from beginning of June 2024, we'll see how long it takes before I need to start cleaning these tracks. Although I will say I will need to clean them beforehand, because the way I lay my tracks is a really quick way of doing it. This stuff, Hobbycraft, about 7 or 8 quid a tin, I think it was. I can't remember now, it might be a bit more. Literally spray down, lay it down, wait the track, 10 minutes later the track's stuck down, done. No waiting for hours for it to dry. It is really good if you want to do some speed laying, and it does work. You know, it works quite well, especially if you're ballasting track on the top layer, because once it's stuck down and you've got the ballast then down, it pins it really well. I don't like the idea of screws and such like, especially when I'm using the DCC Concepts power base. The screws do, you know, they sort of affect with the magnets sometimes and things like that, so don't want that. Anyway, enough waffle from me today. Gonna get on. I'll just give you a quick update on what I'll be doing next. So I think I've already done it previously anyway, but yeah, I've got a few jobs to do, a few bits to do on the top of the layout. I want to sort of like get on with some scenery work, because I'm getting a bit fed up with all the track work. So I'll show you that in a second. So I've been busy doing a few bits. So on here there's going to be a park, and I've been doing some railings, some brick and rail railings, which I'm going to be releasing on the usual spot on eBay very shortly. But that I need to wait before I can do this, because obviously I need a cutout in there, so I've got to sort all that out, which means I need to get all this track work done and the platforms going all underneath before I can sort the top out to do that bit. But yeah, I've been designing the railings previously, so they're all done. I've also just recently released these round metal bins, as you can see. I've got one there, very 1980s, 1990s. Those, I mean, they're still around today, but they were definitely a lot more prolific in the 80s and 90s. Yeah, I've done those, which are ideal. We're there for the businesses to use. So yeah, I've been doing that. I've just designed some skips as well, which I'll show you in another video, but they're all going to be going up. In fact, I think the 00 versions are already up. I'm not sure, but I'll be doing those in NTT as well. But yeah, I've been doing quite a lot of 3D stuff lately. I've designed a few bits and pieces. I'm in the middle of doing some TMD trolleys and some other bits as well. So yeah, but the next job, so I need to get, like I said, I want to get the platforming in. Now what I'm also doing is I've got a lot of these. I've got a spray paint. I need to print off quite a few more to get enough to do all the platforms. So that will be, once I've printed those, I'm going to get those painted up in my spare time when I'm not down here, because I can do that indoors. But yeah, what I need to do is get this back bit done so that I can then work on the front bit, because I don't want to be reaching over there when there's stuff here that can get broken. So I'm gonna get on here. So I've got this building here, nice scale scenes kit, really beautiful kit that is. Took a long time to make, but it's really nice. Yes, I knocked the chimneys off. Yeah, that needs to be put in and wired into the wiring system for all the lighting for that lot. I just need to do a couple of back scene elements there, like I've done there. Look, you can see I've put a brick wall and a gate on that one with some beer barrels there as well, quite nice. And like same on these, I'll just show you quickly. So put some gates in that one for the backyard, some gates with a wall top as if it's like a lock up on that one, and the same on the one up there. And then you've got obviously where the gaps are in the building, so I want stuff behind. Obviously they're part of the scale, the ID back scenes, those bits, but where I'm using, they're actually not off that back scene, they're off another back scene I had laying around, which I cut up. But yeah, so I've got obviously just trees. So over there, as you can see, I've got various bits and pieces of buildings and things that I had printed up, which was in a previous video. So yeah, I need to put some bits in along the back there, get this building up. Then I've got a big long scale model scenery building there, which doesn't have lights. I'll just show you that. So it's having to climb over wood. So that will then go along next. It was off the old layout there, which I extended. I made it into a really big block, office block type thing. So that will go, that one will obviously, that one there will go there, and then this one will go, sorry about the fast movement, there. Then the road, as you can see, I've painted it that side, and then it's going to come across this side. I painted it quite wide there because I wasn't sure exactly where it's going to move over, but it's going to come over to this side and then leave me more room that side, because I've got two large tower blocks to put in, which will be, there'll be another cameo scene there. But yeah, so the road needs to come out, and then I'm going to have a very council estate looking tower block with like the, you know, the grass and some old cars out the front and stuff like that. So the cameo scene. And then I've got, obviously coming down, I need to build these into a scene, but I'm probably going to move those up a bit. I'm actually planning to put in, I've got I want to make a petrol station to go in over here, so I'm actually going to do a 3D design on that, and 3D print, which will obviously, it's going to take some time, but it's going to be worth it. And this area at the front here is going to be an allotment scene, so I need to get that back bit done, work out where the road's coming over, so that I can then do this section here. Once I get up to this point, I can then put in start putting in the platforms along there, and then we can get started on the town scene as well, because obviously I can get underneath. As you can see, there's a lot of rubbish on the layout. Yeah, I need to get it tidied and sorted, but yeah, we're getting there somewhere. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all soon.